What are you doing, man? I'm inspecting your ship, sir. If you could kindly vacate the premises. Originally, when I was going to do my inspection, I was going to use the OSHA safety rules for work sites. But as you may have noticed, this is in fact a spaceship. So, who does spaceships? As you probably guessed by the title, these guys. So, what does NASA have to say about the safety of your spaceship? Well, a lot actually, but I'm going to simplify it down into a checklist of 5 things that we can inspect on this Grineer Galleon. Here's the 5 things we're going to be checking for. Critical hazard controls basically just means that one singular person can't cause a mistake that causes the entire ship to go down, so there has to be a team of people that make the ship function. Environmental compatibility just means that all of the parts of the ship can withstand the environment, like extreme cold, heat, and radiation. Mechanisms are the parts of the ship that have to do something, anything from the weapons of the ship to the toaster in the kitchen. They gotta work. Electrical is pretty straightforward. The electricity, wiring, and power generation has to be safe and functional. Last but not least is the pressure. The pressure in the ship and its related components has to be regulated, as well as the flow of other gases like oxygen and fuel. Now that we know what we're looking for, it's time to start the review. At the end of the review, I'll go over these 5 things on the checklist and we'll determine the score that this Galleon gets, as well as if it passes or fails to be a NASA-worthy spacecraft. There's a lot of walkways going on, it seems like. Very open paths. A lot of locked doors that you can't really get through, that I imagine probably go somewhere important. Alright. So this seems like a normal room. Kind of like giving me storage energy. And there's like some crates around here. There's some stuff going on. There's definitely a little more going on here. I don't really know what this is. Some pipes, some electricity. So maybe like some generators. Is this what these are? So they've got a reliable source of power here, but for the most part, this room's very open, right? It seems like more like a hub area, you know? Not really like somewhere people would be at, you know? Okay, so this is obviously just a storage room, but from what I'm seeing of like this layout is giving me big, like, we have a lot of room to spare, you know? So this room is kind of the room that gets me the most, because this is kind of the room that proves to me, like, there's clearly not a lot going on in the ship, right? The problem with this room is that, like, we don't really see anything useful here. I mean, there's definitely, like, these things, which are what I'm just assuming these are guns. But, like, between the guns, there's just a massive wide open area, right? There's even got windows in it. There's nothing happening here, right? Like, they don't have like a lunch room. They don't have like quarters. I mean, I'm assuming they do, but that's definitely not taking up this space. This space is clearly just for the armaments of the ship. So there's these things down here, which I'm not really sure what these do, but I don't know. Seems kind of curious. But there's definitely like some rooms down here, which this definitely like goes somewhere. Even though it's locked, it obviously goes somewhere, right? So there's like quite a few connecting corridors. So if that room was a hub, this room is the Giga hub. So I assume the other room over there, that's probably like the generator room, or like a part storage room. This is like a real hub room, right? Lots of stuff connects to this. It's the place where the main armaments of the ship are. But this is very interesting because there's not only a lot of space here, but there's a lot of connections here to like other rooms, as you can clearly see. Just interesting. A lot of piping, a lot of stuff going on. I assume to help with the guns, whatever's going on over there. So lots of storage rooms. So I assume all of the Grineer's like living quarters, like a lot of that sort of thing going on. Probably not shown here. Just interesting. Fragmentation armor is the type of armor that is placed above the main armor layer and is expected to get damaged if the main function is to trigger armor-piercing ammo early so the main armor layer stays intact. Ooh, that's actually a pretty good theory. Because, like, you can definitely see, like, there's a lot of space in this room, right? So you imagine, like, the real core of the ship is probably somewhere in this direction, where this would be, like, the fragment armor. That makes a lot of sense. It's like, because, like, this has to house, like, a lot of Grineer, right? Logistically. Some exposed wiring here, even. My, that is not up to code. So what's the rating on the ship? I'm not sure yet. We're not quite finished with our inspection. We're still having a little look around. Right now, it's not looking great. So this room is very curious because, again, very wide open, very, very high ceilings. It even has freaking windows, man, that look out into space here, which is very, very interesting because you would not see this sort of thing on a ship that's made like purely for combat or like purely for like transport, right? Like, I don't know what this is. This is very curious. Seems kind of relevant to the function of the ship. I mean, it's just like right there, right? These things are all like pointing at it. There's only 2 of them, weirdly enough. Okay. So this is more of an advanced like storage room, I imagine. They have a lot of storage. Okay, we're gonna continue our inspection over this way. So they have a lot of these storage rooms, which is very interesting because you'd imagine they're transporting at least something around. If not, probably not a lot around, but they're transporting something around, right? Okay, so this is interesting. Again, another room you don't really know what it's doing. But this room definitely seems to have some sort of function. I mean, let's look at these things, right? These seem like they're carrying some kind of liquid or gas, or they definitely seem like they're a container for something because these are moving, right? These seem like they're definitely like they contain something that might be important for the ship. Maybe it's like fuel or something. Just interesting because this looks like an exhaust vent, which is very curious. This is also very interesting. Another like exhaust vent, which seems like potentially these link directly to like the ship's power source in some way. This is very curious. What is this possibly for? I don't know. But again, a lot of open windows. And because of the fact that this is such a small room, it seems like it's a room that's definitely on the top of the ship. This seems like a top of the ship room. And I think this right here is probably one of the more interesting things to me too, because this is also seeming to be spinning. So this if anything seems to be kind of akin to an engine room, although I don't think this room itself has the engine in it, but I think there is components that kind of are supplying what the engine needs to function. It's interesting. This is yet another small little storage room where, again, they don't have a whole lot of actual stuff. Might be an engine room or a water treatment plant. That is true too. They could have this as a water treatment plant, which they would need for functioning on the ship. What is this small little corridor room anyway? It seems like there's some sort of control here, which would kind of imply that they're hello, excuse me. This would kind of imply that this does have, like, these are like some sort of control system, either for this engine kind of area or potentially if this is a water treatment plant, this would control it, which does kind of further the narrative that this is definitely a room that's pretty vital to the function of the ship. It's very curious. So this room, this is an interesting one. So what is happening here? So this looks way more like an engine than anything else. This gives me big engine energy. I don't really know exactly what's happening here, but it seems like they're somehow getting some kind of power here. Which would make a lot of sense because there's a lot of like controls around. This is my good question, right? Because if this is a ship that's meant to carry a lot of people, number one, you don't see a lot of people. But again, that could just be because this is just the Grineer security force, and most of the people are who would otherwise normally be working in this area are probably like somewhere else, right? All right. So what's up here? This is also very interesting. This just seems like kind of the rafters, where there's weirdly seems to be like even more consoles, which is very interesting. A lot of stuff going on here. I like to imagine this is the engine. I think this is way more relevant as the engine. But that would also kind of further my premise of these could potentially be the fuel tanks for the engine. I mean, let's look at these pipes, right? Like you could see all these pipes around. I would imagine it would not be very difficult to have these pipes kind of connect up into the room over there to kind of be fueling the Galleon, right? If these are fuel tanks. We'd be reviewing the corpus tile sets too. We'll see. The research I had to do for this video was kind of ridiculous, so if you're enjoying it so far, I'd appreciate it if you subscribed and left a comment. So this seems like more of a storage area than anything. This is the most crates I think I've seen piled up in one place in any room. This is a lot going on right here, which is very curious because there are literally rooms dedicated to storage in this area. But again, I'd like to imagine some of those areas are actually more akin to hallways. These are dumpsters, dude. So they do have at least some viable waste management, which is interesting. Although I don't know if I would keep the dumpsters in the same room as the reactor and all the controls for the ship. So another one of these rooms, actually two of these rooms back to back, which is very interesting. So this definitely says a lot about like what this room does. If there's 3 of these rooms in a ship, what could this room possibly be for that they would need 3 of them? If not, probably more throughout the rest of the ship. That is very interesting, which I'm not 100% sure like what we can really deduce about this room. Like, what could this possibly be? So this seems like partially a hallway, but partially potentially a storage room as well, which is interesting. A lot of exposed piping here. But I think, as opposed to saying those are storage rooms, I think I'd like to say those are probably hallways that actually connect to other areas on the ship that are just locked. Oh, wow. This is a very interesting room. This seems like some sort of emergency room. Very ominous. There's one staircase with a single console down here. It's more like a panic room. Like, what does this console really do? What does this do? It seems like it would eject some kind of like cell, like power cell of some sort, or like coolant cell of some sort, which is kind of quite curious actually. Weirdly, you see some green gas up here. This cannot be code. This cannot be safe or sanitary. I don't know what this green gas is doing. This does not seem right. All right, let's keep having a little look around. And another one of these rooms, which is quite odd. I'm still kind of trying to figure out what these do. They seem like some sort of generator of some sort. But to have a lot of generator rooms like this, I mean, to be fair, I think a ship of this size would probably need quite a lot of power, so... Whoa. Okay. This is definitely something we can figure out what this is. Number one, more green gas, which I'm actually kind of curious. This might be oxygen, actually. This might be good. This might actually be something good that we're actually like putting out here. But I can't imagine whatever this is good. So this just seems like steam, so I'm not sure. But this is clearly potentially a hangar of some sort. It has direct access to the outside, although I imagine this is glass. Oh, yeah, this is just straight up an exit, so you can leave the ship from this point. So this is interesting. This is quite interesting. And there's some sort of thing up here which seems like it could actually like, hang onto a ship. So it seems like you could definitely, like, dock one singular ship in here, but it doesn't really seem like there's a whole lot of room for more. But I imagine, I guess, if there's a lot of these kind of bays throughout the ship, then each little ship could have its own docking point, which could be interesting. But to me, it makes way more sense to have like a larger bay for ships. But this does seem like the point at which you can get in and out of the ship would be. And this is the captain's quarters, which is quite interesting. Of course, this captain, I don't think he likes the inspection, so we're gonna give him a little nap. All right, so captain's quarters wise, yeah, this is definitely your navigation room. This is where the captain can see what's in front of the ship, what's going on in the ship. They can definitely control where the ship's going from all these panels here. Even have a little like display of what's going on here, which is interesting. Quite curious. Is there anything else going on in the captain's room here? Apparently used for a little bit of storage. Oh, you definitely can't go down there. Weirdly, this also seems very, very similar down there. What's going on in here? Hey, buddy. I have to ask you to vacate the premises. Seems like what's going on down there was actually very, very similar to the reactor we saw in like the reactor room. That seems to be really powering the ship itself. And you can definitely see some more panels over here that might have something to do with it. So potentially like a secondary backup, or even just a secondary to help to begin with. Definitely could be down there. Do we spot anything else down there? A lot of tubes, a lot of exposed tubing. Some valves here, interesting. But yeah, this seems like some kind of power source as well. Seems like this ship is very, very well powered. But that seems like it's about it for the ship. Overall, not a lot of utility things. A lot of power generation, a lot of corridors, hallways, big open areas. From what I've seen, not a lot of like mess halls or residential areas that you can see in sight. But again, I would imagine these sort of things, and of course, like some utility stuff like the restrooms and whatnot. You're not really seeing in this little glimpse, but I imagine they exist on the ship somewhere, behind some locked doors or whatnot, right? But from what we can see, it doesn't really feel like they're utilizing their space very effectively, which is very curious. So, what's the rating on this Grineer Galleon? Since the ship seems to be entirely headed and functioned by a single captain, I'm going to mark off the critical hazard controls. The ship does seem to pass most safety inspections when it comes to radiation and environmental resistance, even having some level of protection against other spaceships, so I'll check environmental compatibility. Most of the ship's mechanisms seem functional, with the armaments having no issues and the trash bins being very effective and utilizable, so I'll check off the mechanisms as well. However, there seems to be quite a few electrical issues, including exposed wiring and generators and straight up malfunctioning parts of the ship, which is a serious hazard, so I'm definitely not checking that box. Finally, it comes down to the pressure. While most of the ship seemed fine, the entry points made for a serious issue, seeming to have entire open areas to the outside, which would be a total detriment for the overall integrity of the ship. With a score of 2 out of 5, this Grineer Galleon fails the NASA safety inspection. I imagine this ship as a Zeppelin, so they want to have as much air in there as possible, so they stay flying. Didn't they use like helium or something? I don't even know. Does Cloisto fanfiction count as a book? I didn't know that I had that in me. Why have toilets if you could poop in space? I don't think that's how that works.